We're good.
Ready? No. All right. Call this July the 6th meeting of the Hyde County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here and on Facebook Live. With us tonight, we have Commissioner Dennis Swindell, Commissioner Tom Paul joining us from teleconferencing, Chairman Earl Pugh. We have Chris Noble, County Manager, Franz Holscher, County Attorney, and Donnie Shoemate, Deputy Board Clerk. This time, I'd like to just comment that we're sorry to hear about the untimely and saddened by the untimely passing of Commissioner Toppin, and I'd like to offer our condolences to the Toppin family and just ask everybody to keep them in their prayers at this time of grief. I will now ask Commissioner Swindell to lead us in closing prayer.
If you would. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before tonight in prayer, Lord, just asking your grace and your blessings upon this meeting. Lord, we thank you for the safe travel here, and we ask for that same going home. We ask, Lord, for wisdom in the proceedings tonight, that what we do is for the betterment of this county. And Lord, we continue to lift up the Toppin family in this time of grief. Lord, just give them strength and comfort, and just be with them, Lord, and pour out your love upon them. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have an agenda in the package. There's some additions to the agenda, which was sent out earlier. And the additions to it would be the COVID-19 update by Luana Gibbs, the ABC board update by Mary Pickles. We have a resolution to amend fire protection contract with Swan Quarter Volunteer Fire Department. The Manager Noble. Project Budgets Ordinance Clean Water Management Grant, Daniel Brin. Memorandum of Understanding with BJA Stop Grant, Joey Williams. Memorandum of Understanding of Statewide Mutual Aid and Assistance from Joey Williams. Are there any other additions or to the agenda?
No, sir.
If not, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, we had several minutes in our packet, one from June 1st, June 9th, June 15th, June 29th, and July the 1st. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Yes, sir. On the June 1st, 2020 set of regular meeting minutes,
June 1st.
page 7, line 32. The meeting recessed until June 9th, 2020 at 9:30 p.m. So we did not adjourn that meeting, we recessed that meeting.
Page 7.
Till 10 a.m.
Till 10 a.m. on June 9th.
Are there any other corrections?
We do these as a block.
Yes, I think we'll do them at the block if there's no other corrections to any of them.
I make a move, we accept the minutes as amended.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell, a second by Commissioner Paul to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Gentlemen, also on that same page in line 28, the word adjourned is used, and so we would want to amend in the amended minutes to say that the Commissioner Simmons moved to recess the meeting on line 28, and then again on line 32, the meeting recessed. It's just in two places, on lines 28 and 32. Well, that.
I'll agree to
You agree to that?
Yes.
Okay, for the
Okay.
standard.
Okay, great.
All right. I believe we have a public hearing on Ocracoke Development Ordinance changes. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, here a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Public hearing is now open. Are there any public comments from anyone on here, or do you have any written or comments, Chris or Donnie?
No, sir.
Do you have any comments, Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to, for the sake of anyone listening, to just say a few words about how this came about. So these changes to the ODO actually follow suit to the changes that we made last month to the flood ordinance. And in the flood ordinance relative to Ocracoke, we increased the minimum required elevation, minimum finished floor elevation. We increased that by 2 feet. And what this amendment to the ODO does is to likewise increase by 2 feet the maximum height allowance, so that we maintain the same relative maximum height after we've accepted the maximum finished floor elevation increased by 2 feet. The language is a little confusing in the existing ODO. It says maximum structure height is 35 feet, but in another part of the ordinance, it actually sets that 35 feet is to be measured from 5 feet above sea level. So in fact, it was set at 40 feet above sea level. And you'll see that the new language that we're proposing here it clarifies that language by going straight to feet above sea level instead of the complicated way it was set up previously. So now where it says 42, the maximum building height is 42 feet above mean sea level. That both increases the maximum height by 2 feet and clarifies the language. And that's what this is really all about.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I saw that 35 and then you go to 42, that's 7 feet. So that didn't
Yeah. The previous language was very convoluted and unnecessarily so, such that it really took a little bit of study to even figure out what it said. And this new language now, setting the maximum height at 42 feet above sea level, just clarifies that, and there will be no more of this. It was a constant problem to try to understand and explain what the language really said in the ODO, and this just cuts right to the chase and simplifies that language.
Are there any other comments? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Don't move.
We have a motion by
I'll second.
Commissioner Paul, a second by Mr. Swindell to close the public hearing. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. This public hearing is now over. Chris?
So at this time, we would like to ask the board to consider approval of that change to the ODO, the adoption of that change to the ODO.
And if I could, if the board's inclined to do that, I'm sorry, Commissioner Paul.
Go ahead, please.
I would suggest a motion in light of the new law about these types of hearings and these types of meetings. There's a 24-hour rule in place about taking action. And so I would suggest that one of you, if you want to approve this ordinance, make a motion that Hyde County adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 36, subdivisions, Section 36-145, definitions and rules of construction, and Section 36-174, Paren 1, table of development standards of the Code of Ordinances of the Code of Hyde, North Carolina, effective on July 6, 2020, contingent upon no additional written comments being received within the required 24-hour period following this public hearing.
That is exactly what I was going to say.
So you
Great minds think alike.
You could say so moved.
I'll make that as a motion. So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hall and a second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Next thing on your agenda is a presentation by Ms. Linda Bass Knight in the tax collections report. And if you'll find in your packet, the tax collection report, Ms. Linda was not available to present this herself this evening. However, she has said that if anyone has any questions in regard to the report, she's more than happy to take a phone call tomorrow and she'll explain everything on the report. She also added that she will be here for the August meeting to give her yearly tax collection report. And right now, she thinks that we will have a favorable collection rate higher than what we've been reporting for the last 2 years. And so that'll be in August. She'll give you her year-end report and be here in person. If you have any questions in regard to the report within your packet, you can definitely give her a call tomorrow and she'll be happy to explain anything that's within that report.
Can I just comment that it appears to me as though this is a report for June for 2020, and then there's a report also for June of 2019. And it appears to me as though we've collected almost $34,000 more this year than we did last year in June. And I was just a little surprised to see that, considering all the other difficulties we're up against. And I guess I can talk to Miss Linda about that if any of you all can comment to clarify that.
I just think that's true, sir. She mentioned today we've had a higher collection rate. We've collected more money this year as compared to last year. Now, the reasons why, that would be,
Right.
You'd have to talk to your individual taxpayer, but she did report that as of right now, she expects a much healthier collection rate because we have collected more money.
I can speak on a little bit. Just year to date from January on, just in online payments with credit cards being accepted, we've accepted around $50,000 in online payments.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other more questions about the tax report?
And I will also add that now that we're going into our second year of Farragut, we're able to really compare apples and apples because you're able to see last year's Farragut report and this year's Farragut report. And we're finally getting to a place where we can make some really decent comparisons.
Good.
Is there a motion to accept this report?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Swindell to approve the tax collections report. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Gentlemen, the next item on your agenda is an update on the 2020 census, and Mr. Derek DeRazio will be coming in virtually.
He is online.
Good evening. Can you hear me, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Derek DeRazio with the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm the regional representative for the 2020 census, which is currently ongoing. I'm responsible for all 10 counties of the Albemarle region and all the municipalities therein. So I covered 10 counties and 15 cities and towns, including Hyde County, Dare, Ocracoke, etc. I'm here to give you an update on where we are with respect to the 2020 census. And if I could refer y'all, you should have a single PowerPoint slide printed out in your packets. Donnie put it in the packets for you. We're going to just go over those bullet points here this evening if you have it in front of you. I guess I'll start out by saying, I hate to be the bearer of kind of bad news, but we're not doing too well with respect to Hyde County and the response rates for the 2020 census. Right now, our reported response rates, and this is publicly available information on the census website, but it's reported that at least as of June 30th, the response rate for the 2020 census in Hyde County was only 37.6%. That would rank 94th lowest out of the 100 counties in North Carolina. Since June 30th, looking at the current numbers today, we have increased to 37.1%. And I can tell you why we increased, because Donnie put something on the website asking people to respond just in the last couple of days. And that's why we have that increase. So I can tell you that worked. But, overall, we're not doing well. This puts us at a risk of a possible undercount, which could negatively impact funding and resources for the next decade. We only do this once every 10 years, so I won't be back until 2030. If we don't get this right, it's gonna hurt us for the next 10 years. We can't go back and fix it later. So kind of the time for action, I guess I would say, is now. Looking where we've come from and where we're going, next bullet point, what have we done so far to help promote the census? The board did adopt a resolution back last July, on July 1st, 2019, we formed what we call a Complete Count Committee, or CCC, to help promote the 2020 census in the county, specifically including the 5 townships, within the county. We don't have municipalities per se, with different cities and towns, that we have the townships. That was the purpose of the CCC, was to bring all the townships together along with the relevant county, agencies, and let us get a coordinated effort going to get folks to respond to the census across all the townships. Unfortunately, we've only met twice since last year. Last time was back in March, kind of right before the COVID stuff all happened. And we've had some unfortunate circumstances with the current CCC chair. Lois has been out of the office, I realized, for quite some time. And things have kind of tailed off, or kind of fallen apart since she's been out. We haven't been able to do much with respect to getting the census on track, in the county and the townships. Where we're going is that non-response follow-up, we call it NARFU, which is where we go and knock on doors of the folks who haven't self-responded to the census. That's going to start as early as August 11th. Between August 11th and October 31st, we're going to start knocking on people's doors to try to collect the information if they don't self-respond ahead of time. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to show up on August 11th specifically, but sometime within that time frame, sometime around mid-August, and between then and October, we're going to start knocking on doors to collect the information. The census itself, the chance to respond to the census itself, ends on October 31st, 2020. That was extended a couple months because of COVID. Otherwise, it would have been ended in August, but we've extended it a few months because of COVID-19. So we have until October 31st. But the rule is, if you don't self-respond to the census before we show up and knock on your door, we got to get the information from you in person at that point. And when I say knock on your door, it's not something we want to do, especially not with COVID-19. It's not something people want us to do, but we will knock, and we'll try to be persistent, and try to track you down multiple times to try to get the information from you if you don't self-respond, because that's what we're required to do under the law. So we're asking people in these next, month, 30 days to 45 days to make a concerted effort to try to increase self-response rates. So that's less doors we have to knock on. Also, you're going to find self-response is the most accurate and reliable method to get a valid population count. We have to start knocking on doors. It becomes much less accurate. When I say we're at a possible risk of underfunding, based on current estimates, we estimate that approximately each person that we count or that we miss in Hyde County, in any particular county in the state of North Carolina, is worth about $2,000 a year in government funding. Most of that's federal, but there's also some state funds that are tied to a per capita distribution. And that's money that's distributed in whole or in part on per capita census data. So in a small county like Hyde, if we miss even but a couple people, it puts us at a risk of losing some precious federal and some state funding as well. So not to be crass about it, but each person's roughly worth about $20,000 a year in government funding over the next decade. Miss you a couple at your own peril, because you're going to lose out on resources that some other community will get at your expense. So I would say the time for action is now. We don't have a lot more time before this thing's all over, before we start knocking on doors. So looking ahead, what can we do to increase self-response rates in Hyde County over the next 30 to 45 days? Now, I have the advantage of working with all the counties and municipalities in the region, so I know some things that have been working for other counties. I've kind of listed a few of those here in this last bullet point. But I'm going to tell you a big one right now is utility bills. If y'all can get a message, just a brief message on your utility bills saying, hey, act now, complete the census. Here's the website. Here's the phone number to complete it, so we don't have to knock on your door. That will drive up your response rates. It's worked for Carroll County, Columbia. It's worked in Windfall and other places that have done it. You're going to see some definite improvements if you can get on utility bills. So, your last utility bills might have already went out, but your next set of utility bills, I would try to get it on that for roughly the next 2 sets of utility bills. And we have a website and a phone number to call to complete the census. Hopefully you all have done it yourself. If you've done it yourself, you realize it takes 5 minutes to complete. It's not even 10 questions. We're basically just counting the people in your house. Only one person per household has to complete it. Not every person, just one in the household counts everybody in their household. So it's very simple and easy to do. So if you get on utility bills, that's a way that will definitely help. If y'all have social media, Twitter, Facebook, even though people may not have internet access at home or a computer at home, everybody's got a smartphone and they're following Facebook and Twitter. This has worked in other areas with social media blasts. Your website, if you have email blasts, texts, any kind of robocalls or calling systems you can make, just giving people the information on how to respond to the census, this works. As I indicated, Donnie put a brief reminder on the website. Just in the last 2 days, we've increased 0.1% already just from that website reminder that he put out. So we know this works. But again, any way you can communicate with your citizens in each of the respective townships and across the county as a whole, to give them that website and that phone number to complete the census now before we start knocking on doors will be greatly beneficial. Additionally, we have a series of new flyers. We call them our Act Now flyers. They're very brief, right to the point. They say, hey, the time to complete the census is now. They give the phone number, website, and tell you how to complete the census. We have one to cover every major demographic, including printed in different languages, including Spanish. And we can certainly provide those to you to just print out, hang up, and distribute. These are good to hand out in HOAs, condos, apartment complexes. Just print out a bunch of flyers, put it on everybody's door, put it in their boxes. That works. Get them in the hands of any kind of major employers that you have to provide to their employees. Also, you yourself are probably one of the largest employees in Hyde County. If you put it on people's payroll statements or put something in their payroll stubs, about a reminder to do the census, that works as well. Again, if you contact HOAs, apartments, major employers you have relationships with, get them these flyers, get them the information, let them communicate with their constituents and their people. It gives it a local touch. and really helps drive up response rates. If you have any kind of food distribution sites, the schools are doing it for a while, and they'll still be doing it. COVID-19 testing sites, any sites where people are gathering to collect things or get tested for COVID-19, hand these flyers out. Ask them, have you completed the census? Give them the information. That works. I can tell you right now, I was in Columbia last week at a drive-by COVID-19 testing site, and I was there for about 4 hours, Department of Health. We had about 40 cars. Probably about 3/4 of them never knew anything about the census. So I told them at the COVID-19 testing site. So I can tell you that getting information out of those type of sites, those are the hard to count populations of folks that may not know about the census. So using those is a great advantage. If y'all can set up census assistance sites to help people complete the census, they may not have internet access or a phone. Typically this is done at libraries, can be done right there in the courthouse. You can have people call, make appointments to come for assistance to complete the census. Some municipalities are doing that. Any way you can get the word out that people need assistance, they can show up at these various sites to help them complete the census. We recommend you do that. Again, usually libraries, government buildings, firehouses, churches, anywhere people might go. You can basically give them a computer, show them the website, give them a phone to call if they don't want to do that, do the census over the phone. That helps. If you want to provide incentives for people, that some communities are doing that. I'm not saying you have the money to do that, but you can say if everybody comes into the census assistance site and completes the census, we'll give you a $10 gift card, or a T-shirt or a pen or whatever you give it. Those incentives help people complete the census as well. That's up to you. We have a response rate challenge packet I can provide to you, and what that is, it sets up a friendly competition that you can challenge other counties, or the townships can challenge each other, to try to see who's going to have a better census response rate. And that kind of drives up response rates as well with a little friendly competition. So those are some of the ideas. There's other things we can do. For example, I reached out to DSS a couple weeks ago and was trying to talk for their board meeting, but their board meeting got canceled, unfortunately. But can we get DSS involved? Can we get the social workers involved and handing out a flyer, or telling their clients, hey, have you done the census yet? Here's how you complete it. And letting them do that, because those type of folks are the hard to count populations that may not have completed their census already. So there's a lot of things we can do once we get together as a group and discuss those. So what will be the next step? I would urge y'all to schedule another complete count committee meeting as soon as possible. But the key is getting the reps from all 5 townships there, because we have to get that word out across the reaches of the county, and getting all the appropriate county departments there, DSS, the libraries, admin, the list goes on. I can get you a list of who we need there, and try to get that group together and get the census promoted over the next 30 to 45 days, to try to get the word out and increase your response rates. So that's the bullet points that I had. I'll give you a little more granularity of your numbers. Some people like the numbers in more detail, so I'll give those to you right now, and then I'll take questions. So this is based on estimates from previous census data. So I'm not saying this is exactly correct. You all probably have better numbers, but based on our estimates from previous census data, we estimate that Hyde County has approximately 3,249 total households, 3,249, of which 1,769 are occupied. 1,480 we estimate are vacant. Now, vacant for census purposes is very vacant includes seasonal housing and vacation homes. So if it's not a home that's occupied year-round, they would consider it to be vacant. So it's a very broad definition. But if you understanding that broad definition of vacant, we estimate your occupancy percentage for your households to be roughly 55% of your households in Hyde County are occupied. Your total population we estimate to be close to 5,400, 5,393 folks that live in those 3,249 households. Again, your current response rate is actually 37.7% reported response rate. In 2010, you guys were closer to 50%. Your final 2010 response rate was 48.4%. And I think that's a goal for us. I mean, a realistic goal at this point, honestly. If we could get up to 50%, we would be golden. I think would be great. So I think that's a realistic goal to set. So, we're a little below our previous response rates of 2010. If you make a calculation where you take out the vacant households, because the reported response rates on our website make no adjustment for vacant households. If it's vacant and nobody responds, it counts as a non-response. But if you take out the vacant households from the calculation, I would estimate that we're closer to a 70% actual response rate if, in fact, y'all have 1,769 vacant households. So if you think of it that way, of the occupied houses, 69% have responded. It sounds a lot better, than 37.7%. That all depends on how many households are occupied versus vacant to make those adjustments in the calculation. That's not an exact number. But you still have room to work. You still have a lot of occupied households that haven't responded that we can work to increase the response rate between now and when we start knocking on doors in the middle of August. So that's my presentation. Do we have any questions from any of the board, or if any public's participating?
Do our board members have any questions for Mr. Durazia?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
You go ahead, Tom.
No, I can wait, bro. Go.
The vacant homes that don't report, do they, so that does not count against any population because nobody lives in them. Is that correct?
That's correct. So when we report on our website that 37.7%, we don't adjust for vacant homes. So if nobody lives in that house, it's going to count as a non-response as reported on that website. Okay. Eventually, when they finalize the numbers, we go around and knock on doors. We're going to verify which houses are actually vacant. At that point, to come out with a final count of what the vacant and occupied homes are, and they'll make the adjustments for those calculations. But until we put the boots on the ground, this is all just estimated data on those vacant homes. But again, the vacant homes does include the seasonal housing, so the seasonal rentals, the vacation homes. You're going to see low response rates because you have some of that in Hyde County. Dare County is the same way. Dare County has low reported response rates because they have so much seasonal housing. Look at the western part of the state, in the mountains, same phenomena. They have lower reported response rates because of the prevalence of the vacation homes.
So when your people go knocking on doors, if they knock on a door that's a rental home, and somebody comes to the door and they say, "No, we don't live here. We're just renting for the week or for 2 weeks," then the person who's doing that door to door marks that down as a vacant house. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Great question. Yep. And you hit on a good point. The rule is you're supposed to be counted where you live most of the year. Okay, with the reference date being April 1st. So if you live in Virginia for 8 months of the year and you live here 4 months of the year, or you're only here 2 weeks of the year, where should you be counted? In Virginia, where you live most of the year. So we're really only trying to capture the year-rounders. The folks who live here year-round is really what we're trying to capture in the census. Now, you might get some periphery where some folks might have a seasonal home, and they may fill out the census in 2 places. They may fill it in their home in Virginia and at their seasonal home. That's great. What I'm being told is we have algorithms when all the data is collected to eliminate those duplicate responses and make sure to make those adjustments correctly. So you should only be kind of where you live most of the year. That's a great question. Thank you.
So I had somebody come to my door maybe 3 weeks ago, and they wanted to know if we had filled out our census, which we had, and I told them so. And they said, okay, and then they went on. What was that about? Is that's not the same thing that you're referring to when you talk about the non-response follow-up?
That's not non-response. So what happened a few weeks ago was we called it update leave, where folks that don't have mailboxes, with mail delivered by the U.S. Postal Service, you have a post office box, we were supposed to leave a packet with a physical questionnaire, paper questionnaire on your doorstep. So all the post office boxes, at those houses should have been delivered a packet with a census questionnaire. It's called update leave. It happened a few weeks ago. So what we saw was that might have been what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's every household in Ocracoke.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully y'all got these questionnaires, the paper questionnaires delivered to you. We're getting reports in different areas where some were not delivered, but you should have gotten delivered.
So presumably they wouldn't leave it if I said, no, I've already done our census, then they would move on to someplace.
That's probably why they asked you. They really should not have even knocked on your door if they happen to see you and talk to you. Okay, but
That's
really
right.
that was supposed to be a contactless office.
That's what happened. I was outside and they spoke with me.
That's what that was.
I was on Ocracoke about 3 weeks ago also outside. The man left one with me that had the address of my house on it. We don't live in it. And I told him I already filled it out. He said, well, you need to fill this out anyway. But I didn't, but I filled out one where our primary residence is.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, if you happen to fill it out twice, we have algorithms that'll detect the duplicate or inaccurate responses and delete it. So no harm if you fill it out twice, but you should only be counted in your primary residence. That's correct. So those areas with post office box, that's a great point that you made. We are going to send one more final reminder out to all the post office box areas. So we're actually going to try to put a postcard in all the post office boxes, reminding people one more time to complete the census, and it will have the website and the phone number on there to call for people. And when you have a post office box, you just simply use your street address, not your post office box address, when you complete the census online or call. You want to use your street address. And the postcard will say that in English and Spanish. Those folks get one more reminder delivered into their post office boxes. But what we saw was once the update leave operation was completed, we had a spike in your response rates for Hyde County because a lot of people who didn't know the census beforehand finally got a questionnaire and filled it out and mailed it in. So that helped us a little bit. But that bump is over now because that was 3 weeks ago. So we don't have any more rise from that anymore. Additionally, we're going to try to send another reminder. If anybody has regular mail delivered to their houses, we're going to try to send another reminder through the regular mail as well to those addresses who have not responded yet to the census. That will come out prior to non-response follow-up in August. So basically, whether you have a regular mailbox or a post office box, you should get one more reminder from us to respond to the census. That will help drive up some rates when we send those out because typically we do see rates spike when we send reminders out. So that will help us a little bit. But again, whatever y'all can do locally to get the word out really would help even more to bring those rates up.
You're wonderful, gentlemen. Do you have any more questions? Commissioner Paul?
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durazio. We appreciate that useful information. Next on our agenda, we'll have an update from our Public Health Director, Ms. Luana Gibbs. She will be giving us a COVID-19 update.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Luana.
Hey, Luana.
Hello.
Tonight, I'm going to give you an update on COVID-19 in Hyde County. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation that I hope is in your packets. I think that's what Donnie did, was put it in there. Donnie, do you have it where I can look at it on the screen now or?
I'm getting the screen share going right this second.
Not.
Bear with me.
Okay. You're fine.
Now my dog is barking.
Do you all hear my dog?
Yeah.
Okay, mine is barking too.
Just about shared. Sorry, my system's being difficult. Try this one more time. I'll try to get it for the audience too. Well, for whatever reason, Luana, it is not popping up so that we can see it, but it is popping up on Facebook. So I guess just go with it.
I can see it on my screen, Donnie,
Can you?
Okay, that's fine.
and I'm not on Facebook.
I see it on my screen too.
Okay, perfect. Go for it.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how to advance the slides. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, just tell me when.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for the little glitch, folks, but anyway, this is a status report on COVID-19 in Hyde County. And I did this report today. The data that I'm giving you is as of 11 o'clock this morning. So, Donnie, if you'll advance, please. So this morning, the total cases that Hyde County has had has been 20. We've had 11 cases that have recovered. One of those cases was hospitalized, but she recovered as well. Now, I can tell you that the cases actually changed today by 2:30. We had 2 more positives, which has put our total count up to 22 and our total active cases at 11. I don't see anything on my screen now, Donnie, but if it's there, you can advance it. If not, you folks just follow along in your packets if you want to. So progress, I'm going to talk about testing right now. We have been testing at the Hyde County Health Department since this began, and Englehart Medical Center and Ocracoke Health Center are testing as well. Initially, both of those agencies would contact us and let us know how many people they had tested each day so we could track that information. But we have stopped that in the past week just simply because there are so many tests and it's really irrelevant to us how many people are being tested. The important thing for us is the folks who test positive. Now, I will tell you that surrounding counties are doing mass testing, and we partnered with Dare County, or we participated with them in testing 2 weeks ago, but no one attended from Hyde County. And I'll talk more about mass testing as we go along into this presentation. So now I want to discuss the types of tests. The gold standard is the PCR. That's a diagnostic panel that is done, and that particular test is provided at the state lab as well as commercial labs such as LabCorp, which is who we use at the health department, as well as Englehart Medical Center and Ocracoke. The state lab has testing criteria that you have to meet in order to get tested there, but LabCorp will test anybody for any reason. The state lab where we can get our test results in a couple of days. The next type of test is the antibody test. And what an antibody test is it determines if you have had a coronavirus infection. Remember, coronavirus is several different viruses. The common cold is a coronavirus. COVID-19 is the coronavirus that we're all, so hepped up on right now. So if you have had a coronavirus in the past and your body has built antibodies to that, that will be detected in this particular test. It's not a test to use to determine if you're infectious or not, because again, it's just telling you that you have had it in the past. And it typically takes about 1 to 3 weeks for your body to actually build the COVID-19 antibodies to even be determined. The third test is the antigen test. Antigen is the virus itself. It's virus proteins. So this test will show you if you have COVID going on right now, but a lot of times this particular test produces false negatives, which is not what you want. Like I said in the very beginning, the gold standard is the PCR, which is what we're using. The next topic area for progress is our contact tracing and investigation. Our internal staff has been doing this. Mainly it's been our nursing staff, but we're getting enough cases now that our whole department is going to step up on this. So there'll be administrative staff, our substance awareness department will work in this, as well as our health education department. Contact tracing and investigation is just exactly what it says. We get a positive test result, we contact that individual, close contact, and we obtain those names. I can tell you that as of last week, when we had half of the cases we've got right now, we have 58 contacts that we were having to monitor on a daily basis. So it is a very taxing situation. However, there are external contact tracers and investigators that I have reached out to that's going to assist us. One is actually Todd Van Hoy. You all may know him locally. He's a gentleman that works for the Communicable Disease Branch, and he has ties to Hyde County. He has a home here, and he reached out to me actually and said that he would love to help us if he could. And because he understands and knows through the Communicable Disease Branch how to do case investigations, I welcomed his suggestion, his offer. I said, please come on and help us. So Mr. Van Hoy started helping us last week. We have also, I have solicited the help of the Carolina Community Tracing Collaborative. I'll refer to them as the CCTC. Through that organization, we've got an individual who's going to help us right now with the call line, and we will also get from the CCTC interpreters who can help us with our Spanish-speaking population. Funding, about $96,000 actually. That may sound real exciting, like it's a lot of money, but we will eat it up because of the staff time it's taking to work towards COVID-19. That $96,000, just so you will know, is part of the $35 million that CDC has allotted to local health departments for contact tracing and investigations. Let's see. So, areas that require some attention, risks that we should be mindful of are complaints and stigma. I can tell you that we have had an individual, and we do not know who this person is, but they called local law enforcement complaining about an individual that they thought had COVID and was, in the community. And when they were polled to find out, well, who was the individual, they wouldn't give a name. We have had a business contact us to say basically the same thing. They had a COVID-19 person there that they would not allow in the store. They would not give us a name. A lot of times the rumor mill makes things worse than they really are. And here is an example of that. A person can have had COVID, like the 22 people I've told you, we've had 22 cases, but that individual may have recovered. And that individual may be the person who shows up at the local grocery store. The individual and will not let them in. So this is one of our areas that's worrisome to us because people, you don't always know what's going on. The next risk is interpreter services. We had an interpreter on staff with us, and she retired June 30th. So as of now, we're having to use the language line in order to contact Spanish-speaking patients. But through CCTC, the organization that is going to help us with contact tracing, they're going to provide us some interpreters, so that should help us as well. But that is just something that is, that's a gray area for us. That's potentially a problem. So the next steps are, Our first assignment is we are going to provide mass testing. We have set a date of July 15th, which is next Wednesday at 10 o'clock, that we're going to conduct on the mainland, and this will be at Madam Skeet School. We will certainly put out a press release, and we'll put out flyers and information about this, and we will encourage people to get tested. We also have plans to do this very same thing over on Ocracoke. Our issue right now is we're trying to determine a location that we can set this up to provide. Now, mass testing is done, the way we've been doing this is through drive-through. I think our plans are to have 3 lanes set up at Mesquite. So, like I say, as soon as we can get logistics worked out for Ocracoke, we'll do the same thing over there. Our second assignment is to educate business owners and the general public, on things to do to stay safe, but also about, reducing the stigma. Our third assignment is to continue following the executive orders and public health. Between people. The last page of your presentation, or of my presentation to you, is the 3 W's, and that's what we can do. I want to go ahead and go one line and tell you all that I issued a press release last week. I think at that time we might have had maybe 13 cases, and I said in that press release that was going to be the end of press releases about COVID-19 cases. And the reason behind that is the cases are happening so quickly that I basically would be sending out a press release on a daily basis to say, we have more cases. That information is available on the DHHS website in the dashboard. It will show you how many cases Hyde County has. It even shows the zip code where they live. So I will continue to submit press releases, but it typically will not be necessarily and I may decide to just issue a press release at the end of every week to say this week we've had 10 cases. So that may be forthcoming. Let's see, what else? Do you all have questions for me? That kind of sums up the presentation that I had prepared, but if you have questions, I'll be more than glad to answer those.
Luana, it's Shannon, if you can see me or hear me. Just one, is our local transmission factor, the R0 factor, is it pretty consistent with the national average for rural areas, or do we see some deviations from that?
I would say it's probably about the same.
That's nationally like 1.5 to 2. Is that correct?
I actually thought it was 3. 2, yeah, 2.5.
Okay. Thank you, Luana.
Mm-hmm.
I have some questions, if you don't mind. What's the lag time? What's the lag time between when you report to DHHS and when it appears on their dashboard?
Tom, you broke up. The only thing I heard you say was lag time, but I suspect you're asking about the lag time between when we report and when DHHS reports. Is that correct? Is that your question?
That's exactly my question. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so today, there is a lag time. it's going to be practically impossible for our numbers to agree with DHHS. And I'll explain why about that in just a second. I would say the lag time could easily be a day or more. This morning I went on, no, I take that back. It was this afternoon. I went on the DHHS website and it said we had 20 cases. And that's actually what I had put in your report to you because that's what we had when I prepared this presentation. But within 2.5 hours, we had gotten 2 more cases. And DHHS won't have those 2 cases on their website until tomorrow.
But it's not 3 days or something like that. It's a day or a day and a part of a day, and pretty much we're going to be able to stay up to date. Is that correct?
I think you'll be able to stay pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been a common issue between all health departments that we have discussed is how DHHS, their numbers do not agree with ours. But here is an example of what happens. So like our 2 cases that we were told about today, what happened was we received those results from LabCorp. Well, DHHS isn't going to know about that as quickly as we are because we were the testers of that. So that's why we get our numbers quicker.
Sure, of course.
So do you have some more questions?
Yeah, I do, and I'm not certain that am I breaking up, Donnie, or there seems to be not a real good connection here.
No, it's Luana. She has a really bad connection right now.
Oh, okay. So you all can hear me, but maybe Luana can't?
Yeah, Luana's breaking up in and out too, so it comes back though.
Okay, well, I'll ask my questions and see if they can get through to Luana. Luana, you made reference to the number of tests and that was kind of irrelevant. But I'm curious, are we doing a lot of testing? Can you give me some sense of how many tests we are doing sort of on average? Are we doing 2 tests a day? Are we doing 20 tests a day? Do we have any sense of that?
So I can tell you that there is a lot of testing that's going on at Ocracoke and at the health department. Can't speak to Englehart Medical Center, and I've talked with Cheryl a few times, but I can tell you for us, we've been doing probably 10 or 12 tests a day. Last week, definitely we were. Then it throttles back to maybe 5 or 6. Ocracoke had been running probably 10 tests a day too. So there's right many tests that's being performed.
Sure. So I've heard some people express concern. Well, we don't have any positive results in Ocracoke, and it's because they aren't tested. If you're doing somewhere in the range of 10 tests a day, that's probably a pretty good number for a small community like this, even with the visitors on board. Do you have any sense of in Ocracoke how many of those tests are residents versus visitors? Are we testing a lot of visitors? Are we having a lot of visitors go into the health department with symptoms, or is that not something that's going on? Do we have a sense of that?
I do not know the answer to that for Ocracoke. I just do not. I do feel like they're testing a lot. I mean, I feel very comfortable with their numbers, and I think a mass testing will capture, a lot of people too. However, I will say that we want to hold that specifically for county residents and not the visitors.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you heard me.
Yes, I did. I heard you. Thank you. Can you address issue of the antibody tests and the usefulness or lack of usefulness of those. I mean, you mentioned that there's a similarity between the antibodies that you create from a common cold versus the COVID-19. So I had thought the antibody test that was out there could actually determine whether you had built up antibodies to COVID-19. Do I misunderstand that?
I think that you probably can get antibody tests to COVID-19, but if you get an
I think I lost her.
We did.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I said the coronavirus, you probably can get an antibody test that is specific to COVID-19, but you also could just have an antibody test that would say coronavirus. So,
Okay. And is that a useful test? Do you
and
think
really, when you think about it, and you know what, the antibody test, to me, the antibody test is not a useful test. I mean, if you found out that you had it 3 weeks ago, well, you know, that's great, but you know, that was 3 weeks ago. You're fine now. I mean, I think the PCR is the best thing. And I think the antigen test can be a good thing. And if it's positive, then you can follow up with the diagnostic, which is the PCR.
Mhm. If you had asked me, or I think anyone 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago about what we might be anticipating on the island in terms of the COVID-19 arriving and impacting us, I don't think any of us would have guessed that by now we still would not have a positive result on the island. Do you have any sense of just a theory or any thoughts on why that might be? Because I think it's a pretty surprising result at this point that we still do not have any positive tests on the island. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I missed part of what you said in the beginning, but in the end, what I heard you saying was asking what my thoughts are on the fact that Ocracoke has no positives. And it's very puzzling to me, too. I think it's very possible that there could have been people who did have COVID, you know, earlier on, and they were just mild symptoms, and they treated it, you know, at home. They thought they had a cold, or they thought they, you know, whatever, and they assumed it was self. But don't talk it up and make somebody over there wind up with a bad case of COVID-19. Because we've been thrilled that Hyde County in general has had, you know, so few cases. But once it has hit us, and, you know, we don't see that slacking off yet.
Mhm. Are we still distributing flyers at the ferry to everybody who comes to Ocracoke?
We are distributing flyers to the ferry system. I talked to Misty today.
Breaking up.
500. I hope you all hear me because my screen is going completely black.
Yeah, I didn't.
Will you repeat your update from Ms. Gibbs in regard to the Ferry Division?
Yes, we have printed and provided to the Ferry Division about 14,500 flyers. That's from May present.
Great. And that is an ongoing operation?
It is. It is. We're getting ready to do another update, here shortly. We're waiting, but it is ongoing.
Thank you for doing that. I think it's important to get that information into the hands of the people who are coming over here. And I myself, we all are mystified as to why we haven't had any positive cases on the island. It may just be luck, or it may be that there's enough compliance with the 3 Ws that it's really helping us out here. It may be that flyer is making a difference, or it could just be plain luck. But anyway, thank you. I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Ms. Luana, I have a quick question for
You're
you.
welcome.
If one of our citizens wants to attend the mass testing next week, you're going to put out a press release, and what advice do you have for them to make sure that is this going to be by appointment? Is it going to be drive up with the times being announced?
Chris,
Yes,
my
ma'am.
screen went black. I'm so sorry. The next time I'll just attend the meeting there in the room with you all. But I think you're asking about specifics for the testing, and we are going to want appointments. We will put a phone number out on our flyers that people will know to call, because I doubt we're going to run it right through our main phone line, just because we're thinking that can bog it down. But yes, we're going to want appointments. And it will be limited to age, but I'm not certain yet what the age will be. It might be 10 years old and above. I'll double check that. But yes, our flyers will have all of the pertinent information, and it will be available for anybody, whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance,
Donnie, can you give the folks watching at home information real quick on how they can receive social media updates or the Hyde happenings?
Our Facebook page is Hyde County Public Information. You can just do a general search on that on Facebook. Our Twitter page is Hyde County of Hyde NC. The health department also has one, Hyde County Health Department, on Facebook, and they don't have Twitter, but they have an Instagram that I'm not familiar with. But I generally retweet or repost anything that they put out.
And so if folks visit those 2 Facebook pages, they should be able to get the latest information in regard to the testing.
Yes.
Luana,
I'm sure we'll, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Once you've had the coronavirus or the COVID-19, does that mean you more likely or probably the chances are very low that you would ever get it again? And also, once you've had it and recovered, you would not be a carrier of that. Is that correct?
So I'll answer the second question first. Once you've had it and you've recovered, you should not be able to infect anyone else. You're no longer contagious. So that's the answer to that part of the question. The first question, if you can get it again, I will be very honest and tell you I do not know the answer to that question. The last that I looked, that was still up in the air. Research had not made a determination yet if that was so. There may be an answer, and I just don't know it, so I don't want to tell you a story. But I will certainly look into it, and I'll share that with you.
Okay, if that's the case, the antibody test looks to me like it would be a very important test for people that are not relevant.
If that's the case.
Yes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody have any further questions for Ms. Luana?
Just a request that we keep posted as to the timing on the mass testing availability on the island so that we can get the word out about that?
Yes, sir. As soon as Ms. Luana gets that out, we will be resharing that from our site. So if folks can look on their health department Facebook page, Hyde County Public Information, and sign up for their Hyde happenings, then they could definitely get that information as soon as it's released.
And maybe we can even put up some flyers in the post office and the variety store, et cetera.
That
Yes,
is the
sir.
plan.
Thank you.
If nobody has any other questions, if the board is okay with it, Luana has a board appointment on the agenda as well, and since she's having connection difficulties, maybe we should get that out of the way.
That's fine with me. Yes, well, she's on. Is that all right with you, Tom?
Yep.
Get an appointment while she's on.
Ms. Luana, would you like to present now your appointment to the Board of Health?
Yes, at our last Board of Health meeting on June the 16th, the Board of Health recommended Gabrielle Russ to become a board member for us. She is a dental hygienist, and we're going to, if you all appoint her, we will put her in the dentist position. It will be an in lieu position.
Yeah, we have Luana's recommendation from the Health Board to appoint Gabrielle Russ to the Health Board. Do I hear a motion to approve that appointment?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Paul. Is there any more discussion? Not all those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Luana.
Ms. Luana, thank you to you and all your staff.
Thank you.
Our next presentation, our
Thank
final
you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Our final presentation on the board agenda tonight is an ABC board update. We have Ms. Meredith Nicholson, and she'll be presenting that along with an appointment as well. Ms. Meredith, I'll come to this podium here. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me meet with you tonight. I want to go ahead and just jump right in and get out of here. So, we have a board member whose term expired on June 30th. That would be Glenda Williams. Glenda's been on our ABC board a little bit longer than I have. She's a very, very productive member and very helpful. And we would propose her name for a 3-year term that would run from July the 1st, which was last week, to June 30, 2023. That's Glenda Williams.
Okay.
Okay.
We can act on that. Do I hear a motion to approve Glenda Williams for another 3-year term on the ABC board?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Been reappointed.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you a quick update on our finances as we're sorry to say that we're going to have a loss this year. We've had several years in a row with climbing profits, but this year, between the hurricane and the virus, we're going to have about a $20,000 loss, I think, for the entire year. However, our cash flow and the cash reserve that we had at the time, it's enough for us to continue our operations, and we have been able to keep our inventory stocked adequately and seem to be rocking on. So we have been able to give our employees hazard pay, the ones that are dealing directly with the public. And a lot of the ABC boards across the state have been doing that. And it's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit to tell them that we appreciate it. And I will be glad to answer any questions y'all might have about what we've got going on.
Is most of your losses coming from the restaurant business? Is that
Yes,
That's where it's coming from?
that's where it's all coming from. I mean, we had a span of time when, after the hurricane, when the store on Ocracoke was closed, and we certainly felt that. But the biggest area right now is restaurant. And it was we get a monthly summary of the sales and the type of sales from all across the state. It was when the state locked everything down, liquor sales, because the liquor stores were considered as essential, stayed open. And in every county that did not close its borders, like Hyde, Dare, Carteret, a couple others, all of the other counties, their liquor sales just jumped, tripled. I mean, just phenomenal. But in the counties where they had complete lockdown, and of course with the restaurants closed, it just made a huge difference, and every one of them had lost that money. And I thought that was kind of eye-opening. But anyway. Anything else?
Any questions for Meredith?
Nope. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meredith, so much. That's our final presentation, gentlemen. The next item on our agenda is employee, volunteer, and friend of Hyde County. And I have several things that I'd like to talk to you about underneath that. First of all, those of you know that Miss Lois Stokesbury has been out of the office and will be out of the office for a little while. And I'd like to say special thanks to Donnie Shoemate and Jane Hodges in my office. They have stepped up and taken on Miss Lois's duties in the interim, and I can't thank either one of them enough. They've been working very diligently and lots of hours to make those ends meet. So thank you, Donnie, and thank you, Miss Jane. Secondly, I would like for each of you to keep Miss Connie Burleson in your prayers. Miss Connie lost her father over the weekend, and I would like for you to think about her and keep her close in your thoughts. The third thing I'd like to talk to you about tonight, I'd like to thank Daniel Cahoon and Chris Williams in Swan Quarter for organizing 4th of July fireworks celebration. I've seen a lot of positive social media posts and heard a great deal of talk about the fireworks display here in Swan Quarter. I think people came from all surrounding townships, and I've heard nothing but good things, and really like to thank those two gentlemen in particular, Mr. Daniel Cahoon and Christopher Williams, and all those that helped those two guys to get that off the ground, because it was a phenomenal experience for Swan Quarter and all the inland townships. And then finally, as we mentioned in our opening, our hearts are all heavy tonight with the passing of Commissioner Topping, and I would like to ask the board to authorize me to prepare a resolution to be presented to you in August in Commissioner Topping's honor, to be presented to his family. And so I'd like to ask you gentlemen tonight for that authorization, and then to present that in August.
Is there a motion to authorize Chris to do a resolution in honor of Mr. Topping?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you for your.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next on your agenda is the public comment section.
This is public comments, or the public make comments to the county commissioners. Are there any, do you have any public comments?
We did receive one emailed. It is in your packet, and I actually just got one that came in. I don't have it loaded, so I'll read it at the end, public comments.
Do you have the public comment from their package?
I do. Would you like me to read that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. From Miss Brenda Peacock, 68 Jackson Circle, Ocracoke, and 312 Riverside, Washington. Dear Commissioners, understandably, budget has taken priority recently, but now with no restrictions at all re Ocracoke or Hyde County, we are once again requesting that NRPOs be acknowledged and given at least a voice in the Ocracoke Control Group discussions regarding emergency procedure. Hopefully with Dare County recognizing NRPOs as residents in regards to health emergencies now, Hyde County will at least do the same. However, any access restrictions needed for Ocracoke should be determined by a group that represents both residential and commercial property owners. Thank you for your consideration of this in the near future.
Mr. Shoemate, is that all the public comments?
Yes, ma'am.
You do have one, but you'll read that in the next comment section.
Yeah, it just came in over the web form and I haven't accessed it yet, so I'll read it at the end.
Thank you, Donnie. So we'll move on to items of consideration. Underneath the items of consideration, you'll see a resolution to adopt the Northeastern NC Hazard Mitigation Plan. The Hazard Mitigation Plan is being reviewed by North Carolina Emergency Management. And our Hazard Mitigation Plan is required in order to apply for any type of hazard mitigation funding. We are in a regional coalition with our Hazard Mitigation Plan, and our regional coalition is the Northeastern North Carolina group. And so us and a handful of Northeast North Carolina counties work together to keep that plan updated, and it details what we do in response to various emergencies, including but not limited to hurricanes and tropical storms. This plan is required to be adopted in order to continue our hazard mitigation funding. Right now it is approved pending adoption by FEMA, and we are asking tonight for the Hyde County Commissioners to adopt this, approve this resolution adopting this update to our hazard mitigation plan.
Do I hear a motion to adopt the resolution Northeast North Carolina Regional Hazardous Mitigation Plan?
So move.
A motion by Commissioner Paul, to hear a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, let us know, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Our next item under items of consideration is a resolution to amend the fire protection contract with Swan Quarter Volunteer Fire Department. And I'd like to ask Mr. Jeffrey Stokesbury if he would come to the podium. Chief Stokesbury is here representing Swan Quarter Volunteer Fire Department. Our favorite fire chief, Jeff, and he has been working very diligently on a substation project in the Lake Comfort area. And tonight he has brought to you a resolution in support of that project. And so you have that resolution before you, and I'll allow Chief Stokesbury to talk to you a little bit about this resolution and then let you all answer any questions you may have.
I appreciate y'all letting me come and talk to you a little bit about this. As you know, we've been working on this project for quite some time now. We're getting on down to the wire now to pulling the trigger on it and getting something going. And the holdup right now, really the only holdup right now is we're sort of redoing things with the building a little bit to try to bring the price down a little bit. We've redone our finances in the fire department considerably and took care of some things, and we can actually handle the payment pretty much like we are with the support of the county. But we want to be a little bit more comfortable. So that's why we're kind of relooking at the building and trying to get the price of the building on down a little bit. But I do hope that you really consider supporting us in the financial part of the fire department, because without that, it's going to be almost impossible to do, I think. And we're not really asking for any more than what any of the other fire departments are already getting. And we tried to word the resolution in such a way that no matter what happens to the funding in the fire department, that one will be the same. We're not going to ask for any more or any less in that one than what we're already getting. And really, that's about all that I can say about it, other than questions, if you have any questions for me.
So what you're asking for is this the $17,000 plus the $10,000 match, just like other fire departments get for the substation.
Yes, and let me explain that. The 17,250, yes, we are asking for that. But when there's a $10,000 match that y'all already give us for the fire departments, there really won't be one for that fire department, because it'll only be one grant. We won't get another grant because of the deal.
That'll be operated under the storm water department.
Right. But what we may ask for later on, if we wind up over that $50,000 threshold, then the grant stuff is going to change, and it's going to be a $30,000 match. But we'll wind up with $60,000 worth of equipment. It's a 50-50 match, and it's a $30,000 from the state. But that will be later on, after, we see how our income and everything's going to work out. Because like I said, if it goes over 50,000, then that changes to a 50-50 match.
As long as it's under 50, it's what is it?
It's 25.75.
25.75.
Yeah.
25.75.
And like I said, just because we're building a substation, that don't give us the opportunity for another grant. So
Right.
Nothing would really change on that unless we wind up with going over the 50.
And,
This will benefit the insurance rates in the area?
Yes, it'll add another 10-mile radius district. That will be a class 9 rated district, just like we are now. And there's a lot of stuff in that area that it would cover.
So while once this comes online, the taxpayers would be funding a portion of those costs, they would generally could be viewed as a way to save people money on their insurance. Is that right?
Yes, in my understanding, it could be as much as 35%.
Mm-hmm.
So from something lower than that up to 35%.
Jeffrey, maybe you could tell Commissioner Paul some of the things that are in that district that would have a lower rate than when this happens, than now, like school, there's a lot of stuff in that area.
Mr. Paul, in that district where to be, there's a big granary there that'll fall. Matter of fact, it'll be right across the road from the granary. The Hyde Transit is in the area. The EMS building is in the area, the school system, the senior center building, and then there's a lot of other residential area and stuff in there too. The the Hyde building is in there, which is a big building. Madam Mesquite Seafood will be in that same area. So it'll save a lot of insurance dollars by doing this.
Would it also, would the county's insurance rates on the county-owned property and school, would that get an insurance rate too?
yes,
So it would also save the county money, not just residential businesses.
yes, sir, it will help us.
The ABC store is in there too.
It is.
I forgot that.
Yes, it is.
And the chamber.
basically, if we do this thing, once we get it done, everything will be in a rated district in our area, in our district, in Station 9's district, except just a little bit on Turnpike Road, which is only 3 houses, and we've tried to figure out a way to get them in there, but there's just no way to do it under this substation without having to do another one.
I'll make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Have a motion to adopt the resolution. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second. Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Swindell. Now, is any further discussion? There's one part here where we guarantee this for so many years, but also I see in that there's a 60-day written where parties notify the other in writing no less than 60 days prior to the annual renewal, desire not to renew. So there is is that the part that we were talking about where you guarantee it?
Yeah, I expressed, and I don't want to slow this train down at all. I expressed a concern to Chris and the chairman that your current agreement, current contract runs through June 30, 2023. And I understand the wording in the resolution that you're asking for, but you can't enter a legally binding obligation beyond the current term of your contract. I mean, the paper can say what it says, but when it comes time to renew that contract or enter a new contract, I think it expresses the good faith that the commissioners would have at that time to continue with that, but it's not legally binding. It's not a 100% guarantee that will happen.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason why we tried to word it like that, that whatever happens in those contracts, that department would be considered just like the rest of them. And I know what you're saying, I understand that. And it would be the same thing even with the departments that's already running today, wouldn't it? I mean, there's nothing really binding the county to even support what they're doing right now at the end of their term or whatever. Right, end of any year really, because all they get to do is send a letter 60 days prior to the end of it, or 90 days, whatever it is, and they can get out of it. That's correct, then?
Yes.
Is that 60-day thing in the contract we already have? This just added in this resolution for this.
Yes, it is.
It was already, it's in the other.
It's in all of them.
It's in all the contracts.
We developed one template for all the districts, and they're all worded the same, and that is in each of them, and we can revisit that.
Well, it sounds like that it's in here, but it's really not legally binding. And there's a way out of it within 60 days of the renewal of it anyway. So would you, as an attorney, would you suggest taking that part out of it, or how would you advise us?
I need to understand a little bit better the monetary amounts that are being asked to be added to the contract. I have a file, I didn't bring it with me. The contract I have in my file says that you're obligated to provide at least $4,312.50 annually, and that each year you can take under consideration an additional amount, but it can't be less than that. So I heard 17,010, and I didn't really.
$17,250, sir, is our annual appropriation to this.
That's a budgetary thing. It's not what's in your contract.
Yeah.
That's what the county gives to each fire department each year.
And you've already got a motion and a second. So I don't want to stop the board from doing whatever they want to do. Do you need this month?
Yes, we really do, because my board has sort of said we're not going to push this thing on through until we know, where we're going to get some funding from. And also, I'm pretty sure that rural development, USDA, is going to want something on that too. They haven't said anything about that part of it, but it's just like going to the bank and borrowing money. You got to have your income proved, to, how you're going to pay this loan back. So, yes, I mean, I hate to use the term that it's holding it up, but it really is.
Okay, well, I guess I'd say my legal advice would be that the next to last whereas paragraph is not really clear the manner in which you intend to amend your current contract. And I'm reluctant to include, I can't advise the board to pass a resolution that says that in a future contract, you will do thus and such. Like I said before, you can't legally bind a future commission, the future board, to what they're going to put into a future contract. That's just not legally binding.
Well, the way I understand it, the way we got this road, really not asking for anything more than what we've always been getting, except an additional $17,250 because of another district. That we're not really asking the contract to change in any kind of way, except for that, except for adding another district. Because the additional contract or contracts for every fire department is wrote exactly the same way.
And he's not requesting a specific amount. What this resolution, I think the intent of the resolution is to ask for the Hyde County Board of Commissioners to recognize this substation in the same way that it recognizes the other volunteer fire departments and through a similar appropriation.
Yeah, that it will be done equally, all the way, that everybody get the same thing.
Essentially like it was another district.
Yeah.
Yes, and not necessarily that particular amount of money or those particular contract terms, but a good faith statement that upon the building of this new substation, that it'll be recognized and funded at a similar level to the other fire departments.
Yeah, that's right. So we're not really asking, I don't think anything, like I say, other than just adding,
But,
building another district.
I know, Mr. Holster, he had a question about that, and if we're going to do it, we want to do it, where it's legal, where what's in there is needed, put something in something if it's not legal. So let me ask you this.
Maybe I haven't said it clearly. You've got an existing contract that runs through June 30, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And when that date comes along and you're entering a new contract, you're renewing that contract, whatever you're doing, I'm just saying that the law says that you can't now, today, bind the Hyde County Board of Commissioners on July 1st, 2023 to what's going to go into a new contract. Now, I know y'all are going to say, but we're going to treat everybody the same. I'm just saying you can't today say what you're going to put into a new contract.
Well, how would you rewrite this to make it where that wouldn't say that?
And I'm saying I'm having a hard time doing that on the fly.
I know you are. Well, could we pass this resolution with what would you call it, with
Pending the legal change.
Pending the attorneys getting it where he feels comfortable with it being legal? Would that be, and do it, within the next, if we've done that before, pass something pending. Would that be all right with you, Tom and Shannon?
Yes, it's fine with me.
Shannon?
I think our intent is clear.
Yes, I think our intent is clear. We just want to make sure it's done in a legal way.
Correct.
It's not taking anything from the fire department, but it's just, we know what you're saying and what we want it done, but we'd like to have this done the way it should be.
I think when I revise it, what I'm worried about is whether or not Mr. Stotesbury will be pleased with it. I think the revision would say that Hyde County resolves to treat all substations and departments the same. Not that it's going to be in a future contract, but you're stating an intent in a resolution that you will do that in the future, rather than saying that it will be in a contract.
So I think I follow you now. What you're saying, the resolution sort of needs to be separate from the contract.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got it all bound in there together, the resolution and the contract.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we'll be good with that. if I'm understanding you right, and I think I am.
County Attorney Holster, do you feel comfortable with approval pending changes? Or do you feel more comfortable coming back to the board in August?
I'd rather come back to the board in August, but if you want to amend your motion to say that you adopt this resolution subject to a revision that doesn't bind the Hyde County Board of Commissioners to specific provisions in future contracts, but states an intent to treat all substations and departments the same with budget appropriations, I would be okay with that.
Okay. Do I hear an amendment to the motion to that effect?
That was exactly what I was going to say.
We have a,
You're on fire tonight, Tom.
we have a motion to amend the original motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Swindell. Now, is there any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, let it be known by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion's carried. Now, do I hear a motion to approve the original motion
As amended.
as amended?
So moved.
I think we should vote on it. We've already had that motion. We just need to vote on the original motion.
Now,
Yeah.
as amended.
We had the motion. We just, all those in favor of the original motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Stokesbury.
Sorry about that.
That's all. Thank you all.
Definitely gonna have to watch that twice.
Gentlemen, the next item on your agenda under items of consideration is a project budget ordinance for stream debris removal. And I'd like to ask Mr. Daniel Brin to come up front and present this.
Good evening, Commissioners. Have before you a project budget ordinance for a contract for stream debris from the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, Division of Soil and Water Conservation. The project budget ordinance is for $368,814. This is for debris from Hurricanes Florence, Michael, and Dorian. And I would ask that you approve this project budget ordinance, and as while we're doing that as well, approve the contract. This is very similar to all of our other stream debris removal projects we've done. And the only other relevant item I could think to add into this was we've got also in this in-kind match of $18,000, which is a standard 5% that we generally do with Department of Agriculture on these projects. So that would be approval of the contract as well as approval of the project budget ordinance.
Is those both, we got two different ones. This is the second item on our, the project budget ordinance is what you're asking. That's the second one. So we need a motion to approve the
Yes, sir.
grant first.
Yes, sir, the grant contract. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so do I hear a motion to approve the grant contract?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Any discussion on that?
I have a question.
Sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Daniel, does any of this money, is any of this applicable or similar grants applicable in the future regarding any of our drainage issues over on here on the island?
I'm sure there's some snagging and clearing opportunities over there, and generally we fall under budget on these grants, and I would be happy to work with you or maybe the Mosquito Control Board on Ocracoke.
That's what I'm thinking. The Mosquito Control Board might have an interest in talking with you about this.
I know we've had some work in the past, and I'd reached out to them, and in some cases they had already performed the work over there, and because of how those grants were written at that time, we couldn't refund already completed work. But there may be an opportunity here. Maybe some of those needs haven't been addressed. Like I said, I know that we generally fall under budget. We have worked with and hope to work with a really good local contractor, relatively local, and he does a good job working with us and usually keeps us under budget and under kind of the state average for these projects. I'd be happy to reach out to Mr. Beaver Tillett or whoever else, Justin.
Justin LeBlanc, yeah.
Yep.
Good, let's do that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I got one question. Where is White Plains Ditch?
So you'll see on the scope, you might recognize some ditches,
I do recognize.
the names, but we have to attribute a name to every ditch, and not every name, although most of them do, not every ditch
Has a name.
has a name, so you have to attribute a name for the grant. So I can show you on a map, but you might not know where it is because it might not be called White Plains.
Probably about 50 ditches in White Plains.
That's right.
I just
Yeah.
wonder which one
Yeah.
it might be.
So it has to have a name
Okay.
to go in the scope.
All right.
So if it doesn't have a name, we attribute a name that can best describe it.
Okay. All right, now we need to pass the budget ordinance.
Yes, sir.
I'd like a
There
motion.
there wasn't a vote taken on that.
Oh, no, there wasn't. We just discussed. All right, is there any other discussion on the
Grant contract.
grant funding? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Now we need a motion to approve the budget ordinance for the stream debris.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Any further discussion on the budget ordinance? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 All opposed, motion carried.
Daniel, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes. I think
He's up again.
I'm up on the next item too.
Wonderful. So now you'll present to us the project budget ordinance for the Clean Water Management Grant?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a project budget ordinance for Clean Water Management Trust Fund grant, and you can see in this description that the grant agreement was approved November the 4th, 2019. We currently have the grant with a signature and an active date of February 6th, 2020. But at that time, and it's an oversight on my part, we did not have a project budget ordinance. So this project budget ordinance is just basically setting up the finance for a grant that was previously approved for $158,804. So this is a grant that you have already approved. We're just doing the budget ordinance, which was an oversight on my part at the time.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the budget ordinance for Clean Water Management Grant?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Here a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. If you'll remember, we approved Ms. Luana's Board of Health appointment earlier in the meeting. So next we'll move on to the 2020-2021 Hyde County Youth Athletic Service Contract approval. And we'll have Ms. Natalie Wayne online to present that.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Awesome. So y'all should have the 2021 Hyde County Youth Athletic Service Contract right there in front of you. This is for Mr. Cody Horton. He actually did the program last year and he's agreed to continue it on. Under services, we have added a lot more services that we discussed after this past successful year. I do know that COVID-19 has affected that a little bit.
we are still in works of how we can provide these programs this year. One of the main changes I had in here was the payment to contractor. If during this time of these services, if they are not performed, that with the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, and that would be stated by the governor or working with the county manager and the contractor, that they will not receive the monthly amount for the services that was not performed. So we are trying hard to get this up and going, have these kids something to do, but we're definitely going to take the recommendations of the state, the governor, the county manager, and hopefully working with Luana of how we can do these programs, starting with soccer and volleyball in the fall.
Do I hear a motion to approve the Hyde County Youth Athletic Service Contract with Mr. Cody Horton?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
We're going to give Mr. Bryn his due exercise this evening and ask him to come back up. And Daniel is going to present to us a memorandum of agreement between Hyde County and the Wildlife Resources Commission, the U.S. Department of the Interior, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Good evening again. Yep, as Manager Noble said, this is a memorandum of agreement between Fish and Wildlife Service, North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, and the county. This is a continuation, basically, of a previous agreement that led to the development of the Mount Mesquite Watershed Restoration Plan. This just kind of memorializes the continuation of that agreement. I have it attached for your consideration. One thing I would point out, just for the purpose of explaining, is if you see item number 4, section D, the first bullet there, provide support of watershed restoration. This is the county's obligation underneath this agreement. Provide support for watershed restoration projects in the form of staff and technical assistance, use of county-owned property and facilities, and/or available funding. That use of county facilities, basically, the intent there is, as we move forward through the restoration plan, the county has a grant that's $1.8 million for infrastructure to support this. And if that infrastructure is held by the county, that's what that item is basically referring to. If the infrastructure that grant funds is held by the county, it means that that's the purpose that we're going to use it in cooperation with the plan and this agreement. It may very well be that grant funds infrastructure through the county that is owned by a different subsidiary of local government, being a drainage district, possibly Fairfield Drainage District. So I just wanted to point that out to y'all for clarification, and if you saw that and that seemed like a concern, I just wanted to clarify that.
So here a motion to approve the MOA, the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission, Fish and Wildlife Service in Hyde County.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question. How is this process going? The restoration, is there progress being made?
So currently, the last, when I was just up here a while ago, I was talking about the project budget ordinance for our Clean Water Management Trust Fund grant. We're currently contracted with the Coastal Federation, who also helped us assist us with writing the watershed restoration plan. They're administering that Clean Water Management Trust Fund grant and have hired an engineering firm that's already got good ties to the county, who are they're basically doing the engineering work that'll be needed to then utilize that $1.8 million in infrastructure. So we're still doing planning and engineering, but there's definitely progress moving forward. And there's pretty regular meetings with stakeholder group, and there'll be a public hearing or a public meeting. I'm not exactly sure. I can follow back up with you on the date, but there is scheduled our next public meeting already.
When do you think this process might move forward such that people actually start to see an improvement in the water quality in the lake?
Without the dates in front of me, I think that we're somewhere around 12 months out on the engineering portion of the trust fund grant, Clean Water Management Trust Fund grant. And then, you know, there'll be construction of the facilities, being a pumping station. Not really sure where that'll be located or how, you know, what the scale will be until we get done with the engineering portion, but I would suspect we're probably 2 years out from seeing a functioning pumping station that's attached to the lake. I know there's work, one of the other hindrances to water quality is invasive carp. I know there's a lot of work being done by technical committee on addressing the carp removal aspect of the lake restoration. So I think they've done some research in some confined areas and have got a good response to carp removal. So that's being pursued as well, kind of parallel to this infrastructure-based approach. So I would hope that if, you know, carp removal would make a noticeable difference, but I'd say we're still probably a couple years out from full implementation. And I say full implementation of the plan because it's kind of a living, breathing document. And, you know, we may see that as we move forward, we'll need to, you know, navigate in a different manner depending on what kind of results we're seeing from our current activities. But it's a work in progress deal, but we're got a good group of people together working on it.
All right, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to invite our Hyde County Emergency Manager, Joey Williams, to present the next two items. Joey has been working very hard and diligently over the last month trying to get his hands around the emergency management position. There's a lot going on, a lot to learn, and tonight he's going to talk to us about two different items.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me talk to you. The first one is a memorandum of understanding between the Hyde County Sheriff's Office and the Boca Community College. The Bureau of Justice Assistance has a STOP grant program. It's mainly about stopping school violence, but there's a training opportunity. They give like $750,000 grants for training. Us and Boca Community College decided to try to get mobile firearm simulators. There's no match for the grant. It's the way it would work is we would get two. Boca would be doing the purchasing. The grant money would just run through the county. We get two portable firearm simulators, and we would loan one to Boca Community College, and Hyde County Sheriff's Office would keep one so we could do regional training. We have two firearms instructors at the Sheriff's Office, myself and Sergeant Kevin Miller, so we would be trained on how to conduct training for other agencies. And I think at this particular time, it would be good to have the most realistic training available. Part of the system that would go to Beaufort Community College would also have the software to create our own scenarios using actors. And we would have the ability to use flashlights and anything that we carry as far as any kind of use of force or dealing with any scenario.
So for this particular item, gentlemen, you do not require action on this item, but it's the informational
It's just
item?
informational. The other thing we would have to do in October if we were to get the grant is have a project budget ordinance.
So this is between the sheriff's department
And Beaufort Community College and BJA, the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Okay.
We did think that the board would be interested and want to learn more about it, and the folks at home watching. And so if you have any questions or comments about this project, it'd be a good time.
How big area would your training and mutual aid training cover for presenting this program to other agencies?
So Beaufort County covers, I think it's Beaufort, Martin, Terrell, Hyde, Washington, in their, as far as their continuing education. And that's what it would fall under, continuing education. It would be force training for, the several counties that they serve, but it would also give the Hyde County Sheriff's Office one of the same systems to use. And with our contacts, over to the beach and other places, with different agencies, the Marine Patrol, the Wildlife Resources Commission, we could set up mutual aid training with those other law enforcement or include them in our training.
Has the Board of Education weighed in on this?
No, sir, not that I know of. I mean, they let us use their school during the summer for different trainings, like active shooter and stuff. And this portable system we can set up in multiple rooms, and it would be the more realistic the training, the better, as far as the training value is concerned, because you always react the way you're trained. So the more realistic that we can make it, the better for the individual officers.
But the Board of Education has not been brought into the conversation?
No, sir.
Might be worthwhile.
You have used the school in the past for
Oh,
training.
yes, we use them quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And this training does not involve students?
No, sir.
No, Commissioner Paul, this is strictly training for adults, continuing education for existing deputies.
Yes. It's a realistic. It's video screens that we have special sensors, and so you film scenarios the way things would happen, like on a traffic stop or like an active shooter in any kind of place, the school, the government building, anywhere. And the screens react to how we react to them, to the screens. I mean, it's
Interactive.
It's really realistic, interactive.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments, Joey?
And the next item that Joey will present will need your action, the memorandum of agreement between Hyde County and North Carolina Emergency Management Statewide Mutual Aid and Assistance.
And this is just a memorandum of understanding between Hyde County and the North Carolina Emergency Management and it's something that they have to be done every year. It's usually done a little bit earlier, but I just got the 2020 revision. You'll see that it says 2020 revision on the first page, but the other ones say 2017. The only thing that was changed was the top page.
Move to approve the mutual aid agreement.
Have a motion to, Commissioner Paul to approve the mutual aid agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swintel. Is there any further discussion? No, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
And gentlemen, finally, before Mr. Williams takes the seat, he's going to give you a quick update on where we are with our juvenile jail project.
So we really hope to be able to come to you tonight with a contract from the state, and right now with COVID, it's just not possible. There's not as many court sessions. There's not as many adults or juveniles being placed in jail. But what I can tell you is some of the things that I found, we have the capacity for 16 inmates, 16 juvenile inmates. And that being said, the state before COVID was going to guarantee us 13. So just to give you an idea of what that would look like as far as profit, after paying everything, the salaries, the electricity, everything, with just 13 inmates, it would be $81,000, between $81,000 and $85,000, depending on how many days we're in February. If we were able to hold 16 inmates, it would be $346,391 after paying everything. And I also looked at possibly if we were able to get it started and add another 16 beds with a different building behind the jail. If you were to go with 32 inmates, that would jump the profit from $300,000 to $1.2 million after paying everything, the operating costs and salaries and stuff. And the salaries that we were looking at were very competitive with the prison system.
So we've been working diligently over the more than the last several months, doing business planning for the potential juvenile jail facility. And Joey's done a phenomenal job at crunching those numbers and looking at every single expenditure and revenue source, not just startup, but what it would look like operationally, and gave us some different profit and loss projections in regard to the number of inmates. And at this point, it looks like it could be very advantageous for Hyde County to move forward with the project. And of course, as Joey stated, COVID gave us a mild setback, but we're determined to continue to work with our state counterparts in order to try to work towards getting that assurance of a minimal number of inmates guaranteed to us. And we'll continue to work on that. But we did want to update the board so you'd know that what we were working on, where we were with the project, when you could expect to hear from us, and also to answer any questions or concerns that you might have at this point.
I'll make a statement because I've been kind of following this for a while, and we talk about profit and loss and employment. I also don't want to undermine the fact that we're talking about incarcerated juveniles, and that's nothing to celebrate, but it's the reality of the world we live in. But what I think makes Hyde County so attractive, and like I said, I've been following this for a while, is that this facility will be dedicated to juveniles and juveniles only. There's no partitions, there are no interactions with adult inmates, and which can lead to untold consequences. So this building has been a question of what we're going to do with it since it was built and then turned down as a federal facility back in the 2000s. So I think this is a really unique opportunity for Hyde County, and it's an exciting one. And like I said, there's also a lot more humane placement for the juvenile offenders in this facility going forward long-term.
Yes, sir. And I apologize for just talking about the financial repercussions of this, because as a team, we've been very excited about some of the things that we could offer incarcerated juveniles. Our faith-based community has already started reaching out and talking about programming and things. And I think that that this could be, Hyde County could be a place that could really foster some positive growth of some of these juvenile offenders. And I think our team really has that in mind as well, as far as educational opportunities and rehabilitation opportunities. Ms. Luana has done a phenomenal job at the health department in regard to addiction, and we look forward to being able to bring those resources into that facility. And so I think there's both financial and other positives that we can offer folks.
I understand we'll also have an educational coordinator on contract, provide gap schooling, GED opportunities like that.
So there has to be education 5 hours a day. And whether they do it online or we have to find a teacher and an assistant. We had talked with the state about that, and we're looking at other places that do the same thing, and the state has funding for a teacher and an assistant if we were to do it that way, or possibly do it online.
So when you're talking about these numbers of 81 to 85,000, if there's 13 inmates, that 81 to 85,000, tell me what that number is.
So each day for each inmate that we hold for the state, there's the rate for each inmate is $244 per day. So after paying all of our expenses and what's left over added up for a year, would if there was 28 days in February, it would be 31,000. If there was 29 days in February, it would be 35,000. Or 85,000.
So this 81 to 85,000, that represents a gross income?
That would be net income.
Net income.
After everything is paid. Hold on, I'll tell you. If there is 13 inmates and 28 days in February, the gross would be $1.157 million.
So in
So
16,
roughly 89,000 per inmate. And so with that amount of payment from the state, then this facility would be able to provide housing, healthcare, education, addictive services, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. I was a little scared by that number, 81 to 85,000.
Yes, sir.
That's net. Okay, thank you.
that jumps a lot if you can keep 16, the maximum of 16, that jumps, and then
Yes, sir. If
triples almost, doesn't it? I reckon you can do
Yes,
it at
sir.
the same amount of expense, you're just getting more money.
13 is basically your break-even point where you start to achieve profit, and it grows exponentially as you as you add more inmates. And we're looking now to try to achieve a contract that would guarantee us that level of occupancy. And hopefully we'll be able to work and achieve that and get back to this board as soon as possible with a blessing of the project to move forward.
And I can tell you the reason before COVID, the reason that the state needed more beds was because of a law change where 16 and 17-year-olds were included in juvenile. Before, they were kind of in a gray area. So,
Does anybody have any more questions for Joey? Commissioner Paul?
Not right now.
Okay.
I'm sure that-
We'll go. And
Louder.
if you have some later, don't hesitate to reach out and
Yep.
give Joey a phone call, and we'll work on this and hopefully be bringing something back to you in the coming months.
Good, thanks.
Next item on your agenda is a contract for consulting services. This contract is for our special projects manager, former county manager, Bill Rich. This year, we did revise the contract slightly, and as he is stepping back from some of his duties, we reduced the amount of his contract, and we also reduced some of the projects that he'll be assisting us with during the 2021 fiscal year. The things that we're asking special projects manager to work through are to supervise our tax collection efforts by legal counsel, including the coordination and facilitation of the sale of properties owned by the county due to tax foreclosures. Secondly, we ask him to manage all the revolving loan fund as it relates to new loans collection, and also working towards raising additional funds for that revolving loan pool. And I'll tell you, as the manager, that piece alone is invaluable to me to manage that loan portfolio. The third thing, he will continue to be a liaison for Hyde County and NCDOT, as well as the ferry division in regard to all things ferry, vehicle ferries, passenger ferries, and the Ocracoke Tram project. And he'll continue to represent Hyde County on the Beaufort Hyde Community Foundation, the Partnership for the Sounds, and the UNC School of Government boards. So I bring this contract to you tonight and ask you for approval.
And we've already approved these funds in the budget, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Hear a motion to approve the contract, special projects coordinator.
So
So
moved.
move.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
The last item under your items of consideration will be the contract for Hyde Davis Center lawn maintenance and cleaning contract. Each year we contract the lawn maintenance and cleaning services for the Hyde Davis Center between Hyde County and Michael Adams. And this is just a renewal of that term, and it's all the other terms are the same. It's for an additional year, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I ask you to approve this contract.
Looking under number 5, at the bottom, it's got a beginning date of July the 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020.
Yes, sir, that's a typo, and I apologize.
Next page, I believe there's a date on the next page under 10. It also has 7/1/19, 2019.
Yes, sir.
So that should be 20, right?
Yes, sir. So I'd like to ask the board to approve this contract contingent upon the revision of those dates.
Is this the same contract that was last year?
Yes, sir, exactly the same and the exact same monetary compensation.
Do you hear a motion to approve the maintenance service contract for Davis Ventures?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do you hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. No
We
budget
have
matters?
no budget matters tonight. This will probably be the only meeting you ever attend where you won't have budget matters. As we approved all the budget reconciliations prior to the approval of our new fiscal year budget on the 1st. And so now we can move right into management reports.
Okay, Commissioner Swindell.
Been a really trying month and a month of loss, but starting it out with our budget meetings, I think that was my second time going through the process. And it was really amazing to see how that all came together in light of what this county has faced in the last 7 to 8 months. And to see us be able to maintain, maybe not grow, but be able to maintain, I think is commendable to everybody that pulled together for the grants and the things like that. Insurance Commissioner Mike Causey, it was a pleasure meeting him at the fire department here and seeing that their interest in these rural areas and helping us maintain and move forward, and actually listening, and had a great team with him. It seemed like he stayed well beyond his allotted time, but he took an individual interest in our community, and I appreciate that. And just want to end up by saying again to the Toppin family, our thoughts and prayers are with you. It was a beautiful service, and it was very fitting for Mr. Topping, and he was a man of the county and a man of his family, and he was so well represented there. I mean, it was just a building full of family and of love and singing and worship and praise. And like I said, my heart's out to the family.
Tom?
Yeah, I would like to follow that up by saying I regret that I was unable to attend that service. But I was glad I did make it over. I haven't been over to the mainland very often because of the COVID situation, and over the weekend, of course, I couldn't even get on the ferry. But I was glad I did make it over in the beginning of June when we had our budget workshop, and got to spend a little bit of time with Commissioner Topping, and very, very sorry for the family, and I know it's going to be a really difficult time for them, and just want them to know that he's in our hearts and in our thoughts here on the island as well. Just a sort of a report on how things are going on the island. Everything seems to be really busy. There are a lot of people on the island. You go out on the roads and they're just jam-packed full of people on bicycles and golf carts and cars and walking, and it seems like the place is very busy. My conversation with business owners is a little bit different. They all seem to be struggling. They're basically trying to keep their heads above water, and I think they are, but I think that's about all they're doing. It's very, very difficult with the distancing restrictions. Is extremely difficult for the restaurants to maintain distancing and to maintain a certain measure of facial coverings while at the same time conducting restaurant type businesses is very difficult. And for the other businesses as well, it's just they're all struggling to keep their heads above water, and that's about all that they can do. But they're doing a great job of it. They're working hard at trying to provide that experience that people want when they come to Ocracoke. You know, they want to have a fun place to go get a bite to eat, and they want to have shops to go into and go shopping. And the beaches are full of people. There are a lot of people going to the beaches sort of in lieu of some of the other stuff that they might do. I think people are spending a real lot of time on the beaches. And everybody's doing a great job under some really, really difficult circumstances to try to balance off those needs of public health and safety and trying to provide a good experience for our visitors. And I just commend everyone on the island and all our businesses for trying to work through this, unprecedented situation where nobody really has any answers. Every day, it's just a matter of, trying out what worked yesterday, let's do that again. What didn't work yesterday, let's figure out a better way to do it. And every single day, that's what's going on here on the island. And I commend our businesses and the people who live on the island are an important part of that experience. I mean, just everybody out on the streets is maintaining a pretty healthy level of sense of humor and community, and it's not easy, and I really commend everyone for the effort that we're putting out and trying to make Ocracoke the place that people want to come to. They want to be here, and they want to come back again next year. And next year things are going to be better, and the year after that things are going to be even better than they ever were. So I just want to say that and thank everyone for all of their hard work and for putting up with this incredibly difficult and challenging situation of dealing with both recovery from the worst hurricane since the hurricane of '44 and this unprecedented health crisis. So that's what I have to say, and that's my report. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to echo what Shannon said about attending the funeral, and I thought it was just a wonderful tribute to Commissioner Toppin to hear his family talk about how much love he showed for them and what he had meant to them to carry on their lives. I mean, it was, I thought it was just a great tribute to him. He's sure going to be missed, and no doubt he loved his family, he loved Hyde County, and he's going to be missed by everybody, or most of the people in the county anyway. Also last month we did have a health department meeting, and I had an Albemarle Commission meeting, which overall done online. And like I said, we and looking back at the minutes, we met right many times last week on budget and stuff. So it was a busy week. So that's about all I have to Chris.
Yes, sir. The budget, it was very nice to get the budget passed and get that behind us. It's taken up a lot of our time, and we'll continue to work towards making sure we meet all those revenue projections that we made. Other than the things that were in your agenda packet tonight, some quick updates from our office. We are busy trying to manage a number of grants in regard to housing. We've just finished 5 homes on the mainland that were damaged during Irene and/or Florence, and we've just finished those and issued certificates of occupancy. So that's 5 more new elevated and/or reconstructed homes on the mainland. In regard to Dorian recovery, we are working right now to get the individual assistance money from OSBM applied through the Ocracoke Long-Term Recovery Group, keeping up with the travel trailer project, and making sure all those travel trailer recipients are working towards new homes, and working towards a plan for reconstructions on the island. So we've been very busy working on all that grant money that is pouring in, and actually we'll be going over to Ocracoke tomorrow to meet with the Long-Term Recovery Group to talk about the progress of all those grants. The passenger ferry began service this past holiday weekend, along with the tram service, and we couldn't be more thankful to be able to pull those assets in to help us get folks over and get those that tourism dollar over. We're also working heavily on the Davis Ventures project and starting to see some movement in that project. It's a complicated project where the building was damaged by several storms, and so you have several different pots of money from state and federal sources, and it looks like we finally got some cohesion between those state and federal sources, and we'll be working with the Davis Ventures board this week to talk about moving forward on that project. And So those are just a few of the things that we're working on outside of all the things that were in your agenda tonight.
Anybody have anything else? All right, time for the public comment. Do you have some more public comments, Donnie?
So we did have one electronic submission while we were speaking. Do that. Forgive me if I mispronounce his name. I believe it's Miss Lita Jones. And her comment is, she just stated she's from Hyde County, but I think it's Ocracoke based on the comment. Is there any way to enforce the requirement to wear face masks on the ferries and on the island? There are several friends on the island that are battling cancer and are at great risk to contracting the virus. Also, it seems like rules to protect us from the virus need to be enforced, because if the virus comes here in substantial numbers, we may have to completely shut down because we cannot exist without our one health center and our one grocery store. Thank you for addressing this problem.
And thank you for that public comment.
And that is all.
All right, if there's no other business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paul. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.